Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel where we do painting tutorials. Today I have a very easy night sky with watercolor pencils, and I start by applying my lightest blue from my set into diagonal large strokes. Basically, I'm just sandwiching some white space between light blue. The exact shade is steel blue, by the way, but feel free to use whatever light blue you have in your set. And then I'm gonna apply a darker tone over the top light blue slash and on the bottom of the one that is on the right side. And if you're curious, this shade right here is helio blue reddish. Now I do need to use a bit more pressure and build up my colors slightly more than usual for this painting. The reason being, I will be using a spray ball to activate my colors, which means it's going to dilute them a lot. Yet I'd still like to have very saturated and vibrant results because it's gonna be a night sky. So that is why I need to take a bit extra time to really work in my colors here. Now for the top left and bottom right corner, I am using indigo blue. You can use black instead. However, I want to have some black scenery going on the bottom in a second layer, and I want to avoid using black for the background because if the background is black and then I'm gonna add black stuff later on, you won't be able to see the black foreground over the black background. I hope that makes sense. So this is why I chose to use a slightly darker shade of blue. Indigo is basically a very dark, deep, rich blue, and if you apply it very saturated, it looks almost black. However, it's still dark blue. You are able to see all of the blue hues within it. I also add very small bits of it on that diagonal highlight, just so it is not straight white once I activate everything. And I take my spray ball, I point it directly on the highlight and spray there, because if I were to start spraying from, let's say, the top corners, from like the top left corner, which is very dark, or the bottom right corner, which is again very dark, I would push away all of that pigment into the highlight, and I'd end up making new highlights wherever I spray the ball. So just start from that main diagonal highlight. It's going to push off the pigments outwards, and it's going to make the shadows darker automatically. And with the help of a napkin, I just pick up any excess paint and water that tries to flow over the painting. I'm just brushing this off with literally like toilet paper. And if the water did not reach some areas, like there are bits showing through the paper, I just go over with my fingers. Now, please note where your pencils are toxic free, and if you are worried, please use gloves for this. Then lastly, I just crumple up my tissue and tap over that diagonal highlight to give it some texture and make it look a bit more interesting there. A little extra thing I chose to do for this painting, once I smooth out the corners with my fingers, I bring back some of that dark blue over the highlight and very lightly tap it over, just so it does not look like you went over the painting diagonally with a napkin, just swept it clean like you'd clean your counter. And very importantly, please leave this to fully air dry whenever you're using large amounts of water. Like for this technique right here, I do find it very important to leave it to air dry so all of the pigments and the water have time to sink into the fibers of the paper. If you were to use a hair dryer or a blow dryer instead, at least in my experience, wherever you start pointing it from is going to leave some very strange edges and blooms over your background, and it will not look as smooth. So yeah, just take your time, leave it to air dry, go do some chores, go make yourself something to eat. In my case, it took about half an hour for this to completely air dry. It's going to be different depending on the kind of paper you're using, because cotton paper does typically use longer to dry than cellulose, and it also depends on factors like your climate and humidity. Now back to the painting, I take my black and I do a little mountain slope on the bottom that is thicker on the left side and gets skinnier on the right side, and I'm going to scribble a small pine tree on the left and do some larger ones on the right, just a tree trunk and then some random foliage. I'm literally zigzagging over the tree. And if drawing is not your thing, there is going to be a free traceable available down in the description. That is going to take you to my Patreon page, but like I said, the traceable is completely free. Just click the download button and you should be able to get access to it. And a bit of shameless self-promotion, there is a full-time step-by-step painting lesson of this video, which is exclusive to my Patreon supporters. So if you're interested in real-time painting videos and also digital downloads, I do offer those as a tier over at my Patreon page. Go check it out. It will really help support me and the channel. And now back to us. I am using a good amount of pressure for this because if you apply black watercolor pencil lightly or medium lightly, once you go and activate it, it will look gray. And I want this to be very dark and pitch black, so I'm doing a bit extra work here. And then to smooth it out, meaning you can see bits of the blue of the background peeking through the foliage in the foreground. I don't like that, so I'm just going to go with a barely damp watercolor brush over it to make sure it is a bit smoother. And I also like using the tip of the brush to feather out the foliage and just make it look more natural rather than just a bunch of scribbles. I go over the trunk and want to add a little bush there on the very bottom of my painting over the trees. I don't know, I thought it made it look better. Then with the napkin I used to pick up the paint, I sort of fold it like a triangle and I use it to cover the foreground. I dilute a bit of whitewash with water and I'm using the tip of my eraser pencil to splatter some stars over the blue of the background. Alternatively, feel free to use an old toothbrush. I find that using a stiffer brush really helps with making the splatters small and detailed rather than large blobs of paint, which will happen if you use a watercolor brush. So yeah, if you don't have a tool like this, go get an old toothbrush and you'll be golden. Lastly, I just slowly peel off the tape and that is it. I'd like to give a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters for the month of March, and thank you all for watching. If you found any value in this video, please let me know by liking and commenting. Thank you all for watching and we'll see each other in the next one. Bye bye.